especially for a lot of entrepreneurs who've got a product and a service, we seldom ask ourselves, should I be building me as Michelle, or should I be building Resonate as the business? And if I need to build both of them, how do I build them well enough to intersect and eventually sell what I'm selling? So my first question to you is, which one and how?
I think when we spoke about this, hi everyone. I'm excited to be here. I think when we spoke about this in our briefing, the first thing that came up for me was the New York Stock Exchange. When you go into the New York Stock Exchange, I don't know who's great with money. Nyaki, you might know. There's a stock, I think it's called the Alphabet, if I'm not, the Alphabet. The Alphabet is one of the highest profiting stock in the New York Stock Exchange. It's owned by, it's actually, it's tech companies like Google, Amazon, Facebook, Tesla. Do you know who own these companies? Do you know their personal brands? Yeah. That's my answer to you. If you know Tesla is owned by Elon Musk, you know that Facebook is owned by Mark Zuckerberg, you know that Alibaba is owned by Jack Ma. These are big companies that have the highest stock value because they are backed by powerful personal brands. So the thing about personal branding for me is you can decide if you want to build your business brand over 20 years, 10 years, 5 years. I can assure you, building a business brand alongside a powerful personal brand means you get to where you need to go much quicker than someone who's just building a business brand. And here's the reason. People buy emotionally. People buy emotionally. Think of the last thing you bought. When you bought your ticket to come to this summit, you had no guarantee what this event would look like. You did not know if there'd be parking necessarily that you liked. You did not know what the room was going to look like. You trusted Michelle. So when you think about building a personal brand, yes, it will come with sacrifices, but you have to be clear about your why. Then you will get started.
I love that very much, and I also want to dig deep into the why conversation, because I think for several entrepreneurs we found, and I think we spoke about survival mode earlier, where I've just built this business, it worked, and people bought. And now I'm in a situation, I'm in a conversation where personal brand is the thing, and I need to now build a personal brand to be able to sell this thing better and more. How do we start crafting out a why, I think, that aligns with our purpose? Because especially as a business person, sometimes we want the sales, and yes, the sales to an extent can be a why, but how do we begin to dig deep into what is the right why to create a foundation for this personal brand to start with?
So I do personal brand coaching one-on-one, and it was because I wanted to take people through the journey of discovering how do we build a solid personal brand. When you start with why, it's a personal interrogation. Yes, you can create a business that solves a problem in the market, right? And how you're going to do that is understanding what the market needs, but it's going to get hard. And a lot of times the businesses that succeed are a combination of what I am passionate about and what the business needs. There's a book called Ikigai that speaks about the sweet spot of success and happiness. And what that book informs you of is how do you find the solution in life that only you can bring. There's a lot of problems in the world. The problem that you can solve is the one that's bothering you as well. When I started Agenda Woman, I had my journey in entrepreneurship for a very long time, and it was difficult. I look back, my daughter came with me, she's 20 years old, and some of the things I'm teaching her today are things I had no idea about when I was 20. We were laughing the other day because I had her when I was 21. And I'm like, look at you, imagine me married, like pregnant at your age. You can't even pay for your dental bill, you know? So when I started Agenda Woman, the first thing that came to me was not what does the market need? It was, I am experiencing a pain point. My pain point is that I need access to solutions. I need access to mentorship. I need access to community. I could not define it this way at the beginning, but that was the pain point. That was the thing that was troubling me. I need to find a solution. And when I looked around, everything looked green. You know the government websites, I am building a global business, I couldn't identify with the solutions that were in front of me. I wanted a sexy platform. I wanted a beautiful platform. I wanted something elevated, something that could inspire me. And that was the initial departing point of building Agenda Woman. What it looks like now is not even solving that problem. Probably we solved that in the first year. But the beauty of building a business is that it's a consistent conversation. If you're not talking to your business, you're not going to build an amazing business. Businesses require time, they require conversation. And the richness of the conversation is going to be informed by the richness of your own awareness of yourself.
Wow. Sure.
The power of the prompt in ChatGPT is going to be informed by how much you know about the problem you want to solve.
Power.
Everything begins with you.
Sure.
You can't build an amazing business and leave yourself behind. That's why we see so many people start businesses and stop. They start and they stop. They start and they stop. They pivot, they come back. Because there's an interrogation that you're going to have to do with yourself around the pain point, what you're solving, what your audience is going through, that you can only address when you understand how you are addressing it with yourself. So this is a journey. This is the long mile. When we were growing up, a lot of people that were driving a Porsche, Mustang, Rolls Royce, they were much older, and it wasn't a mistake. Acquiring wealth takes time.
Sure.
So building a business is a long game. It's a consistent interrogation. When you really think about the fact that I was my own target audience, it meant that I needed to understand my own pivots, my own pain points, my own challenges intimately in order to understand what my audience is going through. A lot of times when I meet people, I always say, you are the same thing as me. Because truly you are. I've been broke, and I've had a lot of money. I felt ugly. I felt skinny. I felt all the emotions of the Agenda woman. And that's why I can solve for that woman. And that's why I'm patient with that woman. Because I've seen what the journey has produced in me. And when I see people like Michelle, I'm confident, convicted that anyone who gets on the journey with Agenda Woman becomes the woman that they want to become.
Yeah, sure. Becomes a woman on an agenda. I love that so much because every time I speak to Nomndeni, I always say to her, I'm an agenda woman. Like, when you came up with that name, I'm like, I am an agenda woman. I identify myself as a woman on an agenda. My agenda might be different from your agenda, but we're all on an agenda to something. What you touched about is a big question that I think anybody who's got a platform receives a lot, and that's the purpose conversation. It's like, sometimes there's a sense that I'll only be able to build a great brand once I've found my thing and what that purpose is. And I quote you a lot on my podcast. And I always say to people, Nomndeni always says the breadcrumbs always, you must follow the breadcrumbs. And I want to open that conversation up because I think the misconception that the one thing will land on me today, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll blow up by Monday, and by Tuesday I'll have everything that I've ever needed is very false and creates a sense of anxiety and a fear of failure for a lot of people. So what do you mean when you say that we must follow the breadcrumbs, and how do we identify the breadcrumbs, since that forms as part of the Ikigai and being able to find our purpose to then build the brand?
So when I speak at the masterclass on personal branding, because I know people might get lost and be like, hey, I was still speaking about personal branding. So I'm going to consistently bring it back to that. My presentation at the masterclass, I call it the 5 steps of building a personal brand. And I say, this is something you can do if you live here. It's not everything. So even as I speak to you, you're not going to get all the answers, but you'll get the answer that resonates with you. And I don't want you to think you missed anything. You got exactly what you needed. And the person next to you is going to get something completely different.
Yeah.
But I want you to stay on the journey with me, so I'm going to contextualize what I'm speaking about. When I speak about the 5 steps of building a personal brand, the first thing I talk about is identifying your purpose for the idealistic people who are spiritual like myself. And for the pragmatic people, mostly it is our counterparts, and a lot of other women, it is starting with why. You know, when you speak about purpose, people are just like, oh, overwhelming, what are you talking about? I don't understand. But when you say there's a book called Start With Why that's written by Simon Sinek, then they sit up and they're like, I want to know about that. It's the exact same thing. That's the power of words. It just depends who you're speaking to, what language you use. So in essence, I say start with why. The second part is embodying your brand. Once you know your why and what it is that you want to achieve, I actually have a slide that has my why, my how I deliver on my why, and my what I sell, which is what they were saying, the judges were saying. You spoke so well, but you did not tell me what I can buy. If I had R1,000,000 right now and I wanted to give it to you, what am I buying? And you need to be very careful with words. When you speak, when you pitch, when you talk about who you are, you need to unpack words. You need to speak in a way that is accessible in order to get the things that you want from the people that you're speaking to. Avoid sounding smart. Sometimes when people lack confidence, they use words to cover up for the lack of confidence. You don't need to sound smart, you just need to tell me what you're selling me. So that I know that I'm buying amaguinya. So, I then say embody your brand, because once you understand the why, the how, the what, then you need to show up. Because once you understand that first part, then you know also who you're selling to. I have one of my coaching clients here who I absolutely adore. And one of the things that we go through in coaching is unpacking who your target audience is. My daughter is a coaching client of mine who doesn't pay as well. But one of the things I was saying to her is, you have a lot of ideas, but you need to clearly identify what you want to solve for and why you want to solve for that thing and who you're solving it for. And when you get to that part of really unpacking who you're solving it for, you start to identify what their pain points are. I even ask my clients, does this person work? And if you say they don't, the first question I ask you is, how are they going to pay you? Then we're not starting a business, this is an NGO. Because if you're servicing someone who doesn't pay, it's not necessarily a business, it's an NGO. Or you need to clearly identify who's going to give you money, then that's your audience. If a company is going to give you money for you to service the community that you care about, your client is the company, not the community that you care about. Does that make sense? Sure. And then the third thing I speak about is, after embodying your brand, it is communicating your brand, right? What platforms are you using? Is your target audience in those platforms? Because sometimes we get excited about our friends and the things that we want to become. And then you're talking to your friend, but you're not talking to your client.
Yeah, sure.
Because you are not deliberate about unpacking who your client is. So you're just talking a lot of noise, but you're facing Cape Town when actually you want to go to Durban. So the deliberateness in that work of saying, this is the person I want to communicate to, then goes into, where is this person? Then you don't need to be on Instagram if your client is on LinkedIn. A lot of people come to me with extremely emotional questions and not enough practical questions. You don't have to worry about me being on Instagram and how I look on Instagram unless you want to be me. Then that's a different thing. If you want to reach your audience, let's find out who they are, where they are, and how we can get to them. Yeah. So you don't need to be a star. You don't need to be a celebrity. You don't need to be famous. You just need to know where your audience is, and they need to find you. If it's 10 million people, great. If it's 10,000, great. You also, at the back of all of this, have a clear target that is a number. My daughter came to me talking about wanting to start a photography business, and she gave me a long list of things she was going to do. I said to her, how much do you want to earn? She said, I don't know. I said, then there's no conversation. I want to sell Agenda Woman for 10 million US dollars. I'm not concerned with DTI. I'm concerned with an American investor. So when I think about building Agenda Woman, I am very clear about whose attention I want. When you're not deliberate and intentional about what you're building, it's going to pull you in 10 million directions. After communicating your brand, the next thing I talk about is asking for feedback. You need to have feedback loops. I have a lot of mentors who are harsh on me. Yeah. Who said Aish? Yeah. You need to have feedback loops. And it's not going to be your friends who always say you're amazing. That's not going to move you forward. You need the people that are going to challenge you and say, what is this thing? Where is it going? I remember one of my feedback loops is my partner, because he's in business and he's very not like me. And one of the years I said to him, I want to speak to you about Agenda Women and what I'm thinking about in the year. And I want you to tell me what you think. He looked at the numbers and he said to me, if this thing is not going to make you this amount of money, you need to close it this year. I said, Askis, it's Agenda Woman. Like, what do you mean? What are the people going to do without Agenda Woman? He said, if it is not a business, you're going to need to close it and then find a job.
Sure.
Don't over-romanticize the thing that you're building. It's going to swallow you like a boyfriend who love bombs you. Don't allow your business to love bomb you. Have a healthy relationship with your business. Ask it questions. Ask yourself questions. Allow for a community of advisors who are going to ask you questions. There's a gentleman who was here. I'm sad he's left, because I saw him on Instagram and he was building his business with people. I can't even do that.
Yeah.
But that's bold to say, I'm going to sell for R1 million this year because sokubuza at the end of the year.
Yeah.
The last part of my masterclass talks about taking people along. Empowering people is such a low-hanging fruit of personal branding strategy.
Yeah.
When you come to me, I will always be the nicest person you will ever meet, because it's part of my personal branding strategy. I want you to go and tell someone else, she's amazing. Without a strategy, you're not being deliberate about what you're building and who you're wanting to become. You're just in your feelings. And your feelings will not pay your bills. So, as entrepreneurs, I want you to shut down the noise of social media and stop using words like, I call them TikTok words. Authenticity, you must be authentic. What does it mean? What do you mean? How do I convert authenticity?
Into cash.
How do I bank authenticity? Oh, he's a narcissist. What does that mean? In relationships, it's even worse. There's like the whole dictionary of TikTok relationship words that people are using on their partners and getting dumped every day. You need to be extremely deliberate about the life that you're creating, because is it not the life of your dreams? You can't have a love affair with building a business. This is a full-time relationship. There's going to be tough moments, but you're not going to walk away. You're going to find a therapist. You're going to find a coach. You're going to find a mentor. You're going to be deliberate about your entire infrastructure of people that are going to help you with brand you first. I have a therapist. I have mentors. I have coaches who I don't pay, because I'm very lucky that I have really amazing people in my life, but I don't treat them as friends only. I'm very clear about who I call for what at what moment. And you need to go home and write down for yourself, who are the 5 people that are helping you build this business. They don't need to know, but you need to know who you're going to for what. And if there's a coach missing, hire a coach and pay them. If there's healing work that needs to happen, go to a therapist.
Yeah.
Because that healing work is what's going to trip you up when you need to create relationships with companies. And you come across a client who clashes, your demons are fighting with each other. But she doesn't lose, you do. So the therapy helps to shape you for those conversations and those environments that are going to really challenge who you are. So in essence, in answering Michelle's question, because I really wanted to bring it back to personal branding, because from here I'm going to go in all directions. Sometimes, because of our history and our language and who we are and where we come from, we don't have the words.
Yeah.
You have a burning desire. All of us have a purpose. A lot of us don't have the words to articulate it into a commercial proposition. Does that make sense? All of us have a burning desire, but sometimes we don't have the language because your dad was not an entrepreneur. Because you've never met an entrepreneur. You don't know how to package this thing. So, when you're unclear about what the big thing is, follow the next best thing you can do. My daughter again, because I've been having conversations with her a lot this week, and she was crying the other day. These conversations will make you cry. She says to me, she wants to go and get a flash for her camera. I said, why? No, because I want to take better pictures. I said, what is better? No, I just feel like mine are not well. I said, do you have money in the bank? No. How is this feeling going to solve for that? Have you taken pictures before? Yes. Why aren't you taking pictures again? In actual fact, a lot of us are fearful. And we cover fear with a business challenge. It's not a business challenge, it's fear.
Amen.
A lot of times, that's essentially what it is. You're afraid of confronting the fact that you've never read a financial statement. And now you have to figure out how to write a financial statement. Instead of sitting in that fear and letting it swallow you, call an accountant. I promise you, any person that came to me with their biggest business challenge right now, I have an answer. Because a lot of it just requires you to take the next step. And I can direct you to your next step. So, when you're unclear about what your purpose is, not because you don't know what you long for, but because you don't have the words, what is the next best thing you can do with what you have and where you are? That is how businesses are built.
Phew. Yeah, wow. Wow.
In building these businesses that you say you want to build, I want to challenge you once again to clearly define what success looks like for you. Namhlanje. It can change 5 days from now, a month from now, but today, what are you working towards achieving? And be as detailed as you possibly can be, and add a number. Because you guys are afraid of numbers. Add a number. And every morning when you wake up, or every week, make sure you go back to that piece of paper and you read it and remind yourself what you're doing every day.
I think it's safe to say that we actually got a personal branding masterclass. Yeah? So powerful.